I'm going to talk to you about the finance management section of your portfolio now. So this is another very important section. So with this one, you're writing down anything that you need for the project. So anything that cost money to someone at some point, whether you spent the money or not, it all needs to go into this section here, okay? So what you've got there is you've got it, and then you've got quantity next to it if you want to put that in, so that's an optional column. And then you can have an estimation for each item if you have quantity. So these two ones here, not strictly necessary, but if you want to add in that extra element of detail, you could. So I've got an example over here where that wasn't in there, and so we've got items. And the nice thing about this one is that it's organized in terms of categories. This one here is just kind of everything. Well, this one's also in categories, but it's not specific. So I'd say the best one would be a combination between this one and this one. I think this one's much easier to read, but this one does have more information in it, okay? So the main things that you really need to have is your proposed and actual columns. So in your proposed one, so we've got here price and then effective cost. So this is proposed and then actual cost here as well. So this is how much it would cost if you had to go out and buy everything, okay? So if you had nothing at home, if the school had nothing, this is how much it would cost. So the way that you find that is just by going on the internet and working out, okay, so here's a GoPro Fusion. How much does a GoPro Fusion cost? That's $749, all right? How much is a GoPro Karma Grip? At this point, it was $499. How much is the iMac Pro? $8,579, okay? But we don't have to spend that much money on the project because all of this stuff is available by the school. So we have our effective cost here, and it's looking much cheaper right up until we get into the props that he bought for the actual program. Now this student spent $1,000 on their project, and I don't expect you to spend $1,000 on your project. He chose, and a lot of that were the Star Wars lightsabers that he bought online, and whether that was a good use of money, I mean, he wanted to do it, so that's excellent, okay? With this student, he ended up spending $500 roughly, and a lot of that was a result of the backup hard drive that he bought. So that was $200 of his project, okay? So it's not about the amount of money you spend. There's no marks for spending more money, but you create this table with what it is, the proposed and the actual. He's decided to put in a difference, more columns, more detail, but I'd be very happy with something of this nature. The main thing though that you have to have is you really have to have the proposed cost, the actual cost, the name, and it'd be nice if you put in why there is a difference between, say, this one, which was $449, and why it was $0. That can help, okay? Total cost, final cost. You then have to put in an evaluation. So this student has their evaluation here. So you talk about the differences between the proposed and the actual, places where you were able to spend time. This student has decided to say why they didn't have to pay for their music, so they've actually gone and found some information about Australian law that shows that you can use music for educational purposes without having to pay for it. This student here has paid for their actual music, which is nice. And in their evaluation, they talk about basically the differences between what you thought things were going to cost and what it would actually cost. Now, the important thing, and this is something that I haven't really forced before, but I'd like you guys to do it, is the use of charts to go about showing what it is that you've spent money on. So this is a chart that's the estimated costing, so the proposed chart. So everything that's in the proposed chart here is put into a pie chart, okay? Then you have a second chart which shows your actual final costings. So we can see that the stunt sabers here are 2.6% of the estimated cost, a nice little wedge here. But actually they ended up being 42% of the cost. So looking and comparing those two charts, we can then have something to write about in our evaluation to make it much more rich in a way that we wouldn't have if we didn't put it into those charts. Looking at this student's charts, if we go up to the charts, you can see that the total proposed budget, he hasn't broken it down in as a simple. So he's done his budget, his proposed versus his actual, and then he's broken down his actual costs here. So this one here is much like this one here, he hasn't done an estimate pie chart. Instead, he's done a pie chart that shows what the actual cost of this little blue wedge versus what he thinks it was. So he saved a lot of money. So he showed the huge difference between the proposed cost and the final cost, and then he can talk about that in their evaluation. Okay, thanks for your time.